All right.
Welcome. All right, we're live.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to Pej's Recovery Corner. I'm here today with Jeremy Jackson Dunn,
Yes.
but I've only known you as Jeremy Jackson. It's a very special guest for many reasons. We go way back. So welcome to the corner.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me for real.
Appreciate
Good
you
to see you.
coming through. Jeremy and I go way back. Well, first and foremost, Jeremy grew up in Orange County, but also spent a lot of time in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Actor.
Mm-hmm.
What show?
Baywatch.
And any other acting?
Yeah. It was like 16 commercials, a couple movies, probably 5 or 10 TV shows.
Okay.
2 albums, 5 singles.
I think we got to move forward just a little bit so we can hear us better. Tell us if you can hear us.
I
Okay.
usually talk pretty good.
Okay.
I'm a good talker.
All right. So I'll talk about our history a little bit later, like how you and I met and where we met and what we did and all that. But obviously, you grew up in Newport Beach, Costa Mesa, where?
Born in Anaheim. Grew up in the city of Orange with my granny and my mom.
Okay.
Moved to Newport Beach when I was about 6.
Mm-hmm.
So in Newport Beach, Costa Mesa, Corona Del Mar, Huntington, that kind of area.
Okay.
I moved out to LA for a little bit in my early 30s. I was there for about 8 years.
Okay. And when you were growing up in
late 20s, actually.
Late 20s? Yeah. I remember, so when you say, I remember one time, like you were telling me on a personal level, like we were talking about your father and your history with your father and was he in your life?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all.
Never?
Nope. Although, even though he was never in my life, I seem to live out some harm cycles, repeat some harm cycles, and, seek male mentorship that was sure to let me down like he did. So it kind of haunted me even though he wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe saved my life. My father was a heroin addict and a criminal, and I never touched heroin because I lost my dad to heroin. So I definitely hold strong resentments. Mm-hmm. But in a way, maybe he saved my life,
Okay, so and why wasn't he in the picture?
Well, my mom was raised really strict Christian. She didn't really like watch movies, and she couldn't wear skirts below her knees. She had this very protective upbringing.
Okay.
She, of course, was attracted to the high school bad boy, and she didn't really know anything about drugs, about partying, about criminal activity and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So after she got pregnant, they fell in love. She fell in love with him, and sure, he was a good guy. He was a dynamic individual. People loved him, but he was one of us, Mm-hmm. So when she finally really found out that he was doing that, she kind of skipped off and kind of kidnapped me and disappeared and tried to keep him out of my life so that I wouldn't have to go through the pain and torment of having a criminal drug addict father. And
was he in the prison system or anything like that?
Yeah. And I never knew much about him. And I always kind of wanted to, and we didn't have any contact with his family. And it wasn't until I was like 26 or something when he passed away. His family somehow found us online to tell us that he had passed away. And I learned a little bit about him from his brothers and my grandma, his mom, who I had never known. Right. But it wasn't until more recently when I did some jail time that I really learned about him. So He was in Corcoran State Penitentiary for like 15 years.
And how'd you learn about him? Did you do research in there?
No. Yeah. Well, when I was in jail, there were some older white, skinhead dudes. And I asked them, hey, my dad was Worth Jackson Kuykendall III. They called him Criss Cross. Mm-hmm. I'm like, did you know what Criss Cross? And the guy just looks at me, this tattooed face, OG, old school dude. Mm-hmm. He looks at me, he's like, stay right here. And he walks over and he talks to the other guy, Fuzz, from the Antelope Valley. These guys are like in their 50s mm-hmm. and crime syndicate guys. And I'm like,
right.
So, and they're like, dude, you have no idea. Like, he was only known as Cross.
Mm-hmm.
They only called him Cross. Had never seen his face because he was in solitary the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But he ran like this crazy, gnarly, like the Seventh Reich, some Nazi hardcore dealio. And I have a bunch of letters that he had written my aunt. And it's pretty much confirmed he was in the shoe 9 months out of the year.
Right, that's a long time.
And how he actually, it's really weird because in these letters, he writes that he hated, racism and how he despised it, but he was in too deep. So he basically played the system. He went in there and became the hardest, scariest guy to stay alive. He was late. Upon his release, he was subpoenaed to testify against the warden of Corcoran State Penitentiary, because back in the 90s, there was fights going on and a lot of people died and the correctional officers were betting on it.
Right.
And because my dad was well-spoken, because he had actually became a theologian, an ordained minister, he learned Spanish, he learned law. When you're locked up like that, you got nothing better to do.
To read and learn.
Yep. And he was supposed to snitch.
Right.
And he was part of that Delancey Street.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he had gotten Bell's palsy, so they kicked him out of there, which was kind of a bummer. I later learned all this stuff from poems and letters he had written. But he was living with a minister on a Christian ranch, and they found him with a needle hanging out of his arm 2 weeks before the trial. And the other guy that was supposed to testify against the warden was murdered in his jail cell. And the other guy that was supposed to testify supposedly killed himself in protective custody, shot himself in the head. So we really don't know if it was a cover-up or if he did a hot shot.
Wow. Amazing.
It's a pretty trippy story.
It is.
The game gets you one way or another.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
And so when you were born in Anaheim and raised in Orange in the first part of your life, when did you end up, was he ever in your life, or was it just immediately he was out of your life?
I never knew him,
Never knew him?
No, one time is that my phone? Is that someone calling me? It's just going crazy. Is it an alarm or something? I was videoing.
I thought like somebody was printing something.
I know, it sounded weird. It was bugging me. One time I was outside playing hopscotch. This is the only memory of my dad I have, with these girls. I think I was like 3 years old. And it's like that stranger danger time in life when you go to school and they're like, don't drive the train. And this guy pulls up in an old car and he goes, Jeremy, come here. And I was like, how does this dude know my name? Who is he? And I remember, like, when you, in your dreams, when you run and you're trying to scream, nothing comes out.
Right.
That happened to me, and I just went into my mom's house. Mom, there's someone outside. And she put me in the door. And I don't know, she went and talked to him. That was the only time I ever have any memory of my dad.
Okay.
One time.
How old were you when you ended up down in South Orange County, or by the beach? Costa Mesa. Yeah.
Like 6.
About 6 years old. So you grew up experiencing the Newport Costa Mesa lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because I myself moved there when I was 15 years old. And there was a certain feel in that area during that time.
Yeah.
As a 15-year-old, there's things going on. Like you're about 9 years younger than me. So, but still, I think I'm in my book, I'm writing about like what it was like in Costa Mesa. Costa Mesa had a certain style about it, a certain feel. It was a mixed culture. It was sort of a blending pot. But it was different than a lot of places in Orange County. And to this day, I still consider myself a Costa Mesa kid. I loved it, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
But I didn't know you then. I know that you. How old were you when you first started pursuing an acting career?
Well, I started acting when I was 6.
Okay.
So that was right at the time we moved to Newport. My mom, single mom, she got a good deal on low income housing, being a single mom and all that kind of stuff. And I moved in over there, like basically right off Superior and like 16th Street.
Okay.
Right at the top of the hill, back in the back by the
West Side
Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
So I spent my time skateboarding, digging through the trash can at Quicksilver and making friendship bracelets out of unused wetsuit material from the wetsuits.
Oh, yeah. I remember those friendship bracelets.
Yeah. And I was already doing, I went to Newport Heights Elementary.
Okay.
And it was just going bodyboarding walking to the beach.
You were like kind of like a beach kid.
Total beach kid.
Yeah. So, but were you cast? Like, did you have an agent? Is that what happened?
So my mom was enrolled at OCC,
Uh-huh.
and I was getting in a lot of trouble at school. Super hyperactive,
Right.
ADD, ADHD, whatever. They wanted to put me on meds, and I was.
Did they? Did they put you on meds?
No. My mom actually, she took me off sugar instead of putting me on meds.
Okay.
Which was amazing.
Because I know a lot of kids that have ADHD and they're hyper, and they give them like Ritalin to
Adderall,
calm them down.
Yeah.
It has the opposite effect on
paradoxical effect.
Right.
Yeah,
which I have a strong opinion about that, because I think a lot of people will disagree with me. I've had lots of conversations, but I think a lot of people that become addicts become dependent upon that stuff when they're kids, because their parents put them on it, and then they become they start seeking other things, for dependency.
Of course, it changes your neurology for good.
Right, but you weren't put on any meds.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
So
she took me off sugar instead.
Okay.
What they called me GLD, gifted learning disabled.
Okay.
So I was smart, but I was kind of stupid.
I've always known you to be pretty smart.
Yeah.
Well spoken.
And kind of stupid.
I think we all make stupid decisions, but you talked about your dad being well spoken, so I think like genetically,
maybe, yeah. Yeah.
There's the addict gene, but there's also like a fast learner.
Yeah.
Most definitely a fast learner.
Well, there's actually a lot to that we can get into later.
Sure.
Like laboratory mice and rats and addict gene and how that contributes to curiosity, tenfold, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
Cool.
So at that time, she was
just at school, and she found it was like child actors wanted.
Okay.
She ripped off this phone number because I was just a ham. I was always singing. I was always dancing. I was always performing, putting on outfits. And so she just called and was like, took me to this agent in LA. We drove up there in her little Volkswagen Bug, catching on fire. And stuff.
Right.
And it turned out to be the same agent for the Olsen twins, for Screech from Saved by the Bell, for the kid that was on the TV show last. She was a big time kids agent.
Right.
And I just started going on auditions right from there, just landing gigs pretty quick.
Do you think you were landing gigs because you were a good looking kid, or because you could play a part or learn your lines well, or what?
It was both. So because I'm dyslexic, I can't read stuff. It's all turned around.
I remember you told me dyslexic.
I used to write backwards, so I would write from the you had to hold it in a mirror to read it,
right,
completely backwards. So my mom would read my lines to me. I'd say them back to her, and we memorized it that way.
Right.
But the people pleasing, the performance based approval,
right,
that goes hand in hand with being an addict.
For sure.
So I saw that I would be rewarded, or I would be applauded for doing a good job.
Right.
It drove me to want to do a good job and get it. Competitive nature, OCD or perfectionist.
Yeah.
It was like, boom, I'm going to do better than everybody. So that's why I got a lot of gigs.
Okay. So then you said like it was commercials at first. Was that what it was? And it built its way up to actually getting like a major part in a TV show.
Yeah.
Now, when you got that, how old were you as Hobie?
Well, I got the job when I was 9, and we started filming when I was 10.
Okay, and during that time, did you just move up to LA? Were you living in a trailer, or you go back and forth?
We stayed down here.
I mean, it wasn't that far.
It wasn't that far.
Not that far. About an hour, depending on traffic and all that. So, and then just regularly filming and all that.
Well, we filmed in the summer.
Okay.
We filmed like 3 months,
All right.
or a month. I forget. I don't know.
First time you ever took a substance was you were how old?
I had to have been like 10 or 12, just smoking little roaches from a lady's ashtray that left her car unlocked.
And was that in Orange County?
I was in Orange County, yeah. Baywood Apartments.
I know Baywood Apartments.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I know them all too well.
So yeah, I used I had this weird kind of epiphany not too long ago that even before that, 3 years old probably,
right,
I used to mix all my household chemicals together.
Right.
So anything that my mom said was naughty, wrong, or dangerous, I wanted to know why.
Right.
And I guess it's because, I thought that there was answers externally that I would find. So I'd mix Pine Sol and bleach and peroxide.
Pine Sol and bleach, you're not supposed to mix.
And rubbing alcohol.
There's housewives that die from that shit.
I know.
Of course. When the grass says "Do not walk on the grass," Jeremy will stomp on the grass.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on an army crawl.
No wonder we got along.
Roll. And so I think I might have been huffing from a really.
That was
early
my first
age.
run.
Really?
I don't talk about that in some 12-step groups, but like huffing was my first thing.
Glade?
I was 12. No, it was straight gasoline.
Wow.
I was mowing lawns, and I remember like
feeling a little
retreating to the shed. I don't know how I got the idea. Maybe because we were like huffing glue in school, and I thought, this stuff smells too, and it's got some kind of. I wonder what happened.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I huffed it, and I did it for about a week, and then one day I passed out because I was on the other side, if you know what I mean, and it poured all over my balls, my genitalia, and when I came to, I was like, oh, I'm never going to do that again. I got to find some alternative.
Yeah. I want to get high, but not risking my balls.
So it was huffing. Okay. You know what's interesting too? Kids do it.
Oh yeah.
And especially, you can tell them, do not huff white out. They'll huff white out.
Yeah. Dust off is great.
Dust off. Yeah, that's a whole.
Glade. I remember I went to rehab at Michael's house in Palm Springs. I was like 16.
Yeah.
And there was Glade in the bathroom. So I'm like, are these guys idiots?
Right.
Thank God they are.
Right.
With a towel over it.
Yeah. You always figure out a way to get high. So starting with huffing, what else? The roaches in the ladies' car.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about drugs. Nobody taught me about drugs, but I was drawn like the tweakers that, I would just find these people.
Right.
Like the guy with the weird shed in the apartment complex. I'd be like hanging out with him.
Sure.
When I'm like 6 years old.
Drawn to
them.
Yes,
like
yes.
Maddening. Yeah. And I remember one time I dipped a cigarette in. I stole a lot of cigarettes too. Cigarettes were pretty much my first drug.
What'd you dip it in?
I dipped it in nail polish remover.
Oh my God.
I waited for it to dry, and then I smoked it to see if it would do anything. I was just on the quest to find something.
Something to change the head.
Yes, please.
Was it because, in your childhood, did you feel like you weren't enough? Were you not comfortable in your skin?
Well, definitely that. Definitely not comfortable in my skin.
Can you tell me, like, even as a childhood actor, being on like a major, like a television show that's worldwide, you still weren't.
That doesn't do anything.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't do anything.
Doesn't matter.
No.
You're still a secret.
It's not about what you have. It's about what you need.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And
that was like a job. It was just a job.
Yeah, it's just a job.
I mean, there's the glitz and the glam and all that.
It's just a job that allowed me to be cooler than my friends.
Sure.
And give them free stuff. I gave away a lot of free stuff.
Had you become the popular guy?
No, popular, but also the joke. You know what I mean? Also, like
he's the kid on the TV show.
He's the kid on the TV show.
Right.
He's the idiot that's giving us free shit and paying for the stuff, and we're the real clique that hang out all the time. But
right.
We just like ride him.
Okay. Okay. Did you know that, or is that what you thought?
No, I know that now. Back then there was a strange feeling of something inauthentic. There was a needing or a wanting to fit in. I didn't know exactly what it was that seemed off, and now I know what it was.
It seems, when you talk about this stuff, it seems like you've done a lot of soul searching, and you've had some clarity in like your upbringing, and I think that's what happens is when we get sober, we start to delve deep and think, you know what, like that now it makes sense.
Well, I hope so.
Now it makes, I
hope people are doing that.
So, how long were you on the show for?
For 11 years, 11 seasons.
I think went for 11 seasons?
Yeah, Baywatch is the #1 watched TV show in the history of the world. Guinness Book of World Records holder.
I did not know it was that long.
Yeah.
Guess how many episodes I watched?
Couple?
Probably. And it wasn't for you.
Yeah,
I didn't even know who you were there.
It'd be weird if you did watch it.
It was for the girls.
Yeah, of course.
I love Nicole because she was like Charles in Charge. And then,
Nicole is such a sweetheart chick.
Yeah, she is. She's an Orange County girl too.
Yeah.
And then there was Pamela Anderson, who was just like,
hello.
Heartthrob.
What?
She
was like.
I don't know what happened to her. I don't see her anymore, but
she's like, kind of weird.
Yeah, I think that happens to all of us. So 11 seasons you were on there, and you were driving back and forth that whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God!
The last
So
year
you just grew up in that show.
Totally.
How old were you when it
21 was the last filming we did when I was a Hawaiian as an hour-long TV movie. So I quit the show when I was 18, I came back at like 19 and did like a couple episodes because when I quit, I was all messed up. I was out of my mind. I couldn't remember my lines. I had been up for days, and it was really embarrassing.
Were you on meth?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I should have just brought some.
I think that's around the time I met you.
But I stopped.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't sleep, and I stopped. I should have just. I would have been all right if I had a little more.
Right. You would have really remembered your life. Right.
And so I quit, and then I came back at 19 because they were like wanted to tell the story of where I had gone, and it's like, okay, quick buck, I'll do it.
Right.
And then I came back, and when I was sober at 21, and had a really good time in Hawaii.
Okay.
But then I relapsed in Hawaii. They have good stuff over there.
Well, yeah, like the ice.
And in what 2001.
I know. I remember that era.
Yeah.
So okay, so I probably met you when you were.
Tommy, remember Tommy T-Bone?
I do remember T-Bone.
Yeah, he was responsible for a lot of that.
Right. Believe me, I've got stories. Well, at that time when I was, I think I was 27 years old, and I remember it was Alfredo, and they were telling me
what they're doing.
Well, they said Jeremy's taking us to a party in Hollywood. I'm like, Jeremy Jackson from Baywatch. I'm like, he's taking us. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. So I mean, I had ecstasy, I had GHB, and yeah, you have to understand, like, and I say this quite often now. Back then, in our group of friends, you didn't have people that were fucking doing drugs that would kill you today. Right. This was during a time where it was designer drugs, it was stimulants, it was ecstasy, it was the love drugs. Like it was everything that was gonna just make you want to fucking hug and kiss everybody, right? Just go. And it was and then like you party at the party, then you go to the after party, then you go to the after party after the after party, and just go right into Monday. And I remember usually like Monday was my come down day. Tuesday was my suicidal ideation day because like the serotonin in my spinal was depleted from my spinal cord. So I'm just like, I'm never going to do that again. By Wednesday, I start to contemplate. By Thursday, that's Friday Junior. And by Friday, we're back at it again. Raves and all that stuff. But I remember, like, when we went to that party with you, you took us to the Hollywood Hills. And it was a mansion party. It was your typical, like...
Was that the one Hugh Hefner was at?
Hugh Hefner came in.
Yeah.
He came in with the Playmates.
And a big old Viagra boner.
And a big old Viagra boner. And I remember... You told me, Pej, do you have any stuff on you? And I remember I was selling the Playmates, whoever those girls were that were the Playmates at that time, ecstasy and GHB, and I really felt accomplished. I was like, I'm selling drugs to Hugh's girls, right? Maybe one of them is his wife, but I remember like when we hit it off right away. We just did it.
Yeah.
We were cut from the same cloth. I was Persian bougie, you were Hollywood bougie, right? And so, I mean, hand in hand. And I remember, like, during that time, like, we were on our separate paths, but for some reason our paths kept crossing.
Yeah.
And I remember that we would end up in, like, some places that were questionable. Like, it felt great. I mean, it felt like we'd go to people's houses that had stripper poles in their living room, which was at that time was normal because during that time, if you were living in Southern California during that time and you were part of the scene, there was a thing called Club Rubber, which was down in Orange County.
LBZ.
It was all these like companies, Black Flies that were very popular during the 90s that would promote this stuff, Shaw shoes, and I had my own clothing line and everything. And so we go to these parties with like major productions and lots of hot women, and it was just glitz and glam at its finest. And the music was like lit. I mean, we would just go all night. So I remember there was a Pimp and Hoe Fest that we every so often we'd go to.
Vegas. Always had the best outfit.
I was representing the pimp community. I really thought like that was what it was all about. But I don't really think that our lives. I don't know about you because you said you left the show for a little while. Maybe the unmanageability was starting to kind of set in a little bit.
Oh, it had me 100%. I mean, I was joking myself if I was pretending I was doing anything but party.
Well, did the producers just tell you to don't come back for a little while?
I left.
You just didn't want to.
I just left. I said, screw you. Middle finger.
I'm over
this. Yeah, I got better shit to do.
Right.
Nothing. I mean, everything I did, take a shower because I got a party till tomorrow. Get the outfit for the party. Everything was to party. Right.
So because of our age difference, this is what I'm estimating in my mind. When I met you, I was probably 26 or 27. I was throwing raves. I was doing all the party stuff. We We ran in some of the same.
I was like 18.
You were 18 years old.
Yeah.
We ran in some of the same circles, but I remember something switched during that time. Like this, it went from partying at the club to, I'm gonna straight up say, like you were Breaking Bad before it was even thought of as a TV show, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you were a meth cook.
Yeah.
And I remember that there was a house in Orange. Johnny Garcia was there.
Kim Knapp.
Kim Knapp. We had a lot of characters that would come through that house.
Unsavory to say the least.
For a while, it seemed safe until people like the Pej and I gang showed up, or like some of these Mexican gangs were coming, and they were specifically coming to me and saying, "We want to get the celebrity kids dope," because you were like the chef, like you were cooking meth, and it was very powerful, very potent. I believe, and I'm sure that you probably know this too, that even though the streets of Orange County did not have ice, what you cooked was ice.
Yeah, it was actually.
It was ice, right?
It was ice, yeah.
And ice is the highest form of methamphetamine. And during that time, I did some runs to Hawaii myself too. I got caught. I had quit doing meth. I quit doing meth from the time I was 22 till about 26. I told myself I'll never do that shit. That's the devil's dandruff. I fucking hate it. I'll do other drugs, but I won't do meth. Like these Afghans would try to come over to my apartment and they'd like, "You mind if we do some meth?" I'm like, "I mind very much." Yeah. Like you guys, no tweakers allowed.
Swore off forever.
Yeah, you guys go ahead and go, right? But by the time 4 years later, when you were cooking your stuff, and right before I even relapsed on meth because I was doing everything else. Yeah. I was dating one of the Tweaker twins, and I remember I was about to go on a Hawaii run, and something happened between me and my cousin. We had a falling out, and I didn't go to Hawaii. And I took all the drugs and started selling it in Orange County, and it was ice. And it was like very, very the highest, most potent form of meth. And I gave it to one of the twins. She was bouncing off the walls like Daffy Duck, and the next thing you know, I was like, I think I'll try a little bit. My conscience told me when I took it to Hawaii, like, this looks like diamonds. It doesn't look like the old school meth. And I remember thinking in one moment, I wonder how many lives I'm ruining with this in Hawaii. And lo and behold, 5 years later, tent city, 1 in 8 people are addicted to meth in Hawaii, so I'm part of the problem. But my conscience told me that. So around that time, at that particular house, I remember the house got raided, right, by the methamphetamine task force, if I'm not mistaken. And you got caught up in the mix or something like that. I was about to come over there, and I remember that I came, but I left real quick, and I was followed by police throughout the streets of Orange. It was really weird because they all followed me. It was like a caravan of cop cars following me, and I got like gallons of GHB in the car. And I'm thinking, I'm fucked. Like, I'm gonna get pulled. Like, I hope they don't actually smell the liquid. And the next thing you know, they all went in different directions. I don't know what happened to you. I think you got arrested.
Well, okay, so that was at Johnny's house, right?
Yes.
It was weird. So I was at some lady's house cleaning and crystallizing a batch of crank.
Right.
Raw powder.
The old school shit.
The old school shit.
Yeah.
And that's made with ephedrine. So you got ephedrine dope, you got L-ephedrine dope is what you make ice with, and you Sudafed dope, right? That was back in the day. Right. I don't even think they do that anymore.
Well, they pulled all the Sudafed off the shelves for a while.
Yeah. And they make it now out of weird chemicals. I'm glad I don't know.
Right.
But I was cleaning like a couple pounds and turning it into ice, and something happened with Johnny. He got in trouble. Yeah. They raided him. Right. And he rolled on me. He said, "I know where somebody's cooking it right now." And I saw the file. I got the whole file where he was rolling on me, and he wanted to show him where I was, but he couldn't remember. He dropped me off there, and he couldn't remember. Right. So I'm in this apartment, helicopters, white vans everywhere, and of course, you don't know if you're fucking tripping. Yeah, you don't know if they're real or not. But it felt real. But between the helicopters and the white vans surrounding the building, it might be real. And I, by the grace of God, lucked out not getting popped that time. They couldn't find me. They didn't know exactly what apartment I was in. They were circling for hours, and Johnny got in trouble. The weird thing is, Johnny got in trouble with this guy who had been released from jail recently, who had a trunk full of kiddie porn. And that guy had sought me out and was driving me around, helping me out with shit, like he was going to be my friend, you know? He wasn't even party.
Right. Isn't that odd?
Some weird
freaking... Who do you work for? Can you take your pull your shirt forward and look and see where the bug is?
Yeah. Pretty trippy stuff. Dude.
I mean, when it comes to the meth world, there's always some shenanigans. There's always some it's just hinky shit. Like
once you start to try to explain this stuff, when you got your head on straight, and you're like, it just sounds it's bad.
Oh man, it's bad.
Embarrassing
to be caught up. So shortly after that, if I'm not mistaken, you got sober.
Yeah, I got sober when I was 20.
20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I remember that the way I found out you got sober is that I went to where they would have the club rubber, but I think it was another club that night. But you were at a club.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw you, and it was nice to see you. But you were different because when you approached me, I thought he doesn't look sucked up. He hasn't been picking his face. He looks normal. He looks normal. And like you came up to me and you told me like I'm sober now. I remember you said that. I'm like, why are you here? Then why are you at this place?
Yeah.
You said because I can come to places like this. I'm good. But you said if you ever need help, Pej, if you're ever ready to get help, just know like. Sobriety is a possibility, and if you need a sponsor, I can sponsor. I'm like, sponsor? Do I look like a fucking skateboarder? Like, what are you talking about, sponsor?
Yeah, just you're like my sticker on your board.
Yeah, exactly. You said you'll understand if you ever come. Like, we'll save a seat for you. I believe you said something like that.
Damn.
And so that was my first
old school stuff.
I'm telling you, that for me was like. I mean, I've heard of AA and all that before, but I never was no interest. Right, 17 in juvie. They would do panels and things like that. But when you said it to me, I believe I was probably about 28, 29 years old. I didn't know what I was in for. I had still had some mileage ahead of me. But the possibility of sobriety was presented to me through a guy that I considered my buddy.
Pretty cool.
Right? And so by the time I didn't get sober right away. I did not. Like I remember a year later, I was raided by the methamphetamine task force, and in my life, I've been raided 6 times. So I've been in
Steve Burnett.
No, but it was a full unit of all Orange County, different departments, sheriffs and cops, and all them that come in the riot here. And all that.
Embarrassing.
So embarrassing. Well, you know,
and it's like it's like they know you.
They knew me by the name Pej. They didn't call me by my nickname. I was like, but so I always see somebody. I know exactly who that is. That was one of the twins. Like I had to go through the paperwork and look at where they blocked off stuff. But regardless of the fact that needed to happen, I ended up going to jail. And
Jonah says hi, by the way.
Oh, I remember Jonah.
Yeah, I hang out with him all the time.
I like Jonah. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
But I didn't get sober still. I went on another run between the ages of 30 and 35. I was on formal probation and informal probation. But you stayed sober.
Yeah.
You stayed sober the whole time. And I remember that by the time I was 35 years old and homeless in Costa Mesa, I think I crossed paths with you one more time. And then at 36, I went to rehab. And I saw you one day at a 12-step meeting. At that point, I believe you had about 6 years.
Yeah.
And I was a newcomer. And you and Frankie Dahl, you were both at some place. I won't say it's like in Newport somewhere. And I was like, I looked up to you guys. I was like, fuck, if that guy that used to be the town meth cook and just ultimate tweaker that
was committed,
you know,
very
committed, like very, very sober. And Frankie, she had a lot of time even then.
Yeah,
you know, she was this little tattooed girl that you could just tell she was totally punk rock, but she was very comfortable in her skin.
She was.
She just she carried herself very well. She loved her sobriety, and she would let you know it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when I saw you guys, it was inspirational to me because I thought, well, fuck, man, there's something going on here. So as time went, and I know you were very committed. You were out. You were working with lots of people. Yeah. Wolfie was in your circle. Wolfie's got now 20 some odd years of sobriety.
26.
But what tripped me out is one day I'm watching Celebrity Rehab, and you should have had about 10 years at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're on Celebrity Rehab. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like this fucking guy was doing so good. And I remember sending you a message, and I'm like, why are you on Celebrity Rehab? Did you relapse? You're like, no, steroids and some shit.
Yeah.
And so why did you go on Celebrity Rehab?
It's weird, man. So this manager would call me every year, dude. every year and he'd be like, hey, they want you on Celebrity Rehab. Are you still sober? I'm like, yeah. Hey, got a chance to do Celebrity Rehab. It's $200,000. Are you still sober? I'm like, yeah.
Did pay people that much to go on that show?
No, I turned down a couple opportunities. First, one of which was $200,000.
Oh my God.
And then he called me again. He's like, dude, Celebrity Rehab really wants you on. He's like, can't you just drink a beer or something and like start over again?
They wanted you to relapse.
The manager did. Yeah. And so I go, look,
Johnny Garcia's on here.
No way. Oh my God, exactly. He said. Oh my God, it's hilarious.
I wonder if Jennifer, do you know Johnny? You guys both live in that Texas state. Don't mess with Texas.
Funny, Johnny. What up?
Okay, so the dude.
We won't talk about the time with the Asians where he tried to get me murked.
Oh man.
I'm still alive. Oh.
Okay, so this guy wanted you to get loaded. You turned down the offer of going on the show.
Turned down the offer, and I go, look, dude, I shoot up like B vitamin, like I'm shooting up all these growth hormones and testosterone, and I'm on this crazy. I'm 210 pounds, just yoked.
I remember you were super yoked.
And I'm like, would they do it for steroids?
Right.
And he's like, I don't think so. He's like, they want to do a test shoot. So they came over to my house and I made a really big to-do out of how much I take and what I'm doing. And you know, it looked pretty bad. I got needles everywhere. I got $10,000 worth of human growth hormone in vials in the freezer. You know, I'm extreme. So they go, yeah.
You? Extremist?
Yeah. So he goes, yeah, it's $50,000.
Right.
If you want it, they'll do it. They'll do it for steroids. So I claim to be addicted to steroids. You know, was, you know, aesthetic results and you know, it was my God, you know what I mean? Right. I had lost my singleness of purpose for sure. Is it a relapse or not? Some people say yes, some people say no. But that's that. I didn't really relapse. I didn't do meth for 14 years. I think I probably had about 12 years before I started taking medications as prescribed. That was really the relapse.
Okay, but when you went on the show, they paid you.
Oh yeah.
What did they pay you?
50 G's.
And you got loaded.
And I got loaded. Yeah.
The money, they were dangling the carrot.
Yeah, it wasn't the money. It wasn't the money. It was the letting up on a program of rigorous action. It was no longer regularly attending meetings. I started going to one meeting a week. Like, oh, it's my birthday. I better go take a cake and show these people that it can be done. You know, I thought like I was double digit, some kind of gift to recovery. You know, I freaking totally lost myself.
So, okay. And then during that time you were married.
Yeah.
Eliana says hi, by the way.
Oh, hi, Ellie.
Okay, so you were married. Who was she?
So I married this woman. Well, I started shortly after Celebrity Rehab. I started dating a friend of mine that I had known for about 12 years at that time. We had lost touch for 4 years, but we had dated off and on in my early recovery around, 23 or something. I don't know, 21. This girl that I had put in a little independent movie that I did. She was a stripper and a porn star, and she was gorgeous, and I just saw this sweetness in her that had my heart, but I couldn't like see myself marrying or publicly dating like a stripper and a porn star. She was like my dirty little secret.
Okay.
And when she resurfaced and I had a bunch of money in the bank and she was going to nursing school, I was like, oh my gosh, she's stopped doing porn. She's only stripping on the weekends. Like, this could be great. We'll fix each other all up.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. And
codependency within.
Yeah. And then that's that. We dated for a year. We were engaged for a year and we were married for 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that you were living in LA during that time?
Living in LA.
Okay. And then the marriage dissolved.
Marriage went horribly. I became like my worst version of me. I chose another thing to become my God. You
mean like female?
Female.
Okay.
I got tired of the green and moved on to the pink.
Mm-hmm.
and trying to build this picture perfect life. I'm 32. I got 12 years sober. Now it's time to focus on business. Now it's time to focus on relationship. Now it's time to own cars and have a house and a dog and graduate. It's the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Here I'm grown now. I'm training celebrities in LA. I'm, consulting for bigwigs, hedge fund managers, showing them how to eat, showing them how to train, showing them what to take, how to supplement, and all this cool stuff. And there was no way I thought that taking prescriptions as prescribed, having a couple drinks with my then wife on vacation could ruin it all. And or if it did get weird,
mm-hmm.
it would be so easy to just say, never mind. Okay, that went wrong.
Right.
Here's a little experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm not an alcoholic. Maybe I'm not an
delusion.
Total
delusional.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so
which is pretty much guaranteed for anybody that isn't pretty damn active.
Right.
In case you were wondering.
Yes.
It doesn't take long. Because life keeps happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the marriage is no more. She's not doing well.
I was so blinded with fixing her or being a superhero that her mental condition was not as visible as I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Or I just thought she had anxiety or that she was insecure, but she was actually becoming totally schizophrenic,
she was losing her shit.
Psychotic ideations, paranoia, hearing voices.
Well, was she doing the type of drugs that we were doing?
No, she was not. It's like real mental stuff.
Just mental health.
Yeah.
Straight
real
mental
health stuff. Yeah.
So sad.
So that ended really, really terribly. And then here I am. I'm already loaded. We didn't party together. I wasn't partying,
Yeah.
But that heartbreak and that betrayal and that just I was lost. Without her, I was lost.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do I do now? She was my life. She was my everything.
Right.
So it's definitely time to get loaded.
Mm-hmm.
My kind of take was I tried so hard. I put in so much work.
Right.
And it's over now. I'm giving up. Never mind on any of it.
Right.
So I went full force back into the darkness.
Into the darkness. But okay, even so, after that, this is kind of what stands out to me. That even though, in a sense, you were my Eskimo.
It's kind of cool.
You know that, right? I let you know that for probably the first 5 years.
Yeah, thank you.
And then Laura was too, and she just lost her husband, God rest his soul. But Laura she had 4 years, and she told me that she would not talk to me unless I was sober.
This is interior designer, Laura?
No, Laura's disabled.
Okay.
Whoops, there goes the end. Yeah, Laura's S. But she told me I don't.
Wogenstein.
Zagen. But she said, I saw her somewhere in public. And she said, if you're not sober, you can't be my friend, and that hurt me. And so that stuck out to me. I knew that Jeremy told me something. The student named Disco. I know you know Disco.
Oh.
He said that he just got out of rehab in Florida, and I'm doing meth with the guy, and it was like. He goes, you should get help. And I go, you just got out of rehab. What about you?
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm not ready, but you're ready. I'm like, okay. So it was like a series of events that happened. So all these years later, to see you fall off the wagon, it made me trip out. Not to say my sobriety was at risk. I really have always taken my sobriety very seriously. So I thank you for helping me in the beginning, for showing me what sobriety looks like and how one can become comfortable in their skin. What I do love is that every time that you fell down over all these years since your actual double-digit relapse, how many attempts that you've tried to come back? Because I've seen you try and try and try to come back. I remember one night we were at Gucci. I had let you know that I'm going to be speaking there, and you showed up. And you were there with our other friends and our Breathworks friend and a few others. And you were there to support. And even so, with all of the slips and everything, you do come back with a vengeance. You really want this thing. But I've also noticed that it's been hard for you to put time together. And at this point right now, how long are you sober?
135 days.
Okay. And what's different this time?
A lot. I have a new sponsor, and Mark Houston, Big Book Awakening
Oh yeah,
Steps.
yeah.
So
You're doing the BBW?
I'm doing that. I'm doing
Or BBA?
BBA. Yeah.
Yeah.
BBWs are nice too.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm doing more intensive work than I've ever done. I mean, I almost feel like a different person,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like who I am today. I've never been before, and I've been just led and bound and restricted to or confined by a lot of fear and a lot of insecurity, a lot of self-centeredness, and
Before.
my whole life.
Okay, so here's what trips me out.
Even in recovery, even when I was 12 years sober,
I've been jealous of your abs for a long time.
I don't have any.
I've got love handles, and I've always had love handles, and I got to the point where I was like, you know what? If they live up to their name, just hold on. And love them handles, right? Hold on to them. But for a guy that's had pretty much the entire time I've known you, a beautiful physique, and I'm not, listen, I understand, like, it's not the outside that's going to satisfy a person.
Yeah.
You could look, most of my friends that were really, really handsome, good-looking, chiseled face, beautiful physique, you tell them, looks like you have a 5-pack. I do?
Yeah.
They automatically feel very insecure.
Mm-hmm.
But to hear you say that when you've lived a pretty fucking full life.
Yeah.
Like to my understanding, from what I've seen, you've done a lot. You've moved a lot of mountains, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely. I've succeeded in a lot of different
arenas.
Yeah.
When it comes to exercise, when it comes to dietary habits, you're an expert. You're no dummy. Like the conversations that we have, I'm like, I've always wondered, were you educated because you're dyslexic, right?
Yeah, no, it's just basically self-educated.
Self-educated.
I dropped out of school and went to 3rd grade.
So as being a dyslexic person, did you read a lot? Like, how does a dyslexic read?
Well, it's fixed. It changes. It's a weakness in your eye that
it comes and goes.
Well, it was strong and now it's gone,
Okay.
and now it's more like numbers and direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's more in my head instead of what's outside of me.
Right.
Yeah.
To hear that you're living differently, because I always have hope, and I always hope that I feel like you're coming back on this path to be with us.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it makes me, as your friend from so long ago, sad, because you were an inspiration to me, to see you go back out and see you go back out. I just, we call it chronic relapsing.
Yeah.
I guess in a sense, not to say like one drug's better than the other, but because you never wanted to be a heroin addict like your dad.
Right.
So had you been, you probably would have fucked with the fentanyl. You'd be dead. Because these days the kids are doing drugs that will fucking kill you almost immediately. It's a crapshoot. Yeah. You don't know what you're getting.
Right.
Like, it's just Russian roulette.
Right.
It could just happen that one time. And it just happened in this last week to 2 of our friends, right?
3.
So 3. Like, it's in our world,
mm-hmm.
It's a very common thing. It's almost like we become desensitized.
I agree.
Until it hits home. Unless it's someone you know really, really well.
Right.
Like Joey, for example. You remember Joey, right?
That's our son's face.
Yeah, he was in our circle, and when he died, at that point, people were like, "Can you believe Joey died?" I'm like, "Yes,
yeah.
I can believe Joey died." Because Joey went hard and didn't give a fuck, and he was like, looking. And the sad thing about Joey was that both Joey and his brother overdosed and died. So the mother has 2 dead sons because they were just knuckleheads.
We all at this point, it's like, expect the worst and hope for the best.
That's right.
Everybody's basically dead. We're all dead men walking.
Right. Absolutely.
And we got a shot today.
We do have a shot today. I like that you switched it up. I mean, we all love Wolfie, and I like that right now you're trying a different path.
I still do a home group with him every Monday.
I love him.
Yeah,
he's just a good man all around.
Oh my gosh.
Just one of the most genuine souls.
For sure.
Great example. Demonstrates like what real recovery is about.
Practical application.
Absolutely, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's on the horizon for Chairman Jackson?
I'm gonna be managing or leading a house over at Ohio House in a month. I'm about to take a nice little vacation.
Where are you going?
My wonderful sober girlfriend to Nicaragua.
Okay.
And I'm just having a new experience with the steps and just seeing where God takes me in life. Plenty of opportunity. Opportunity's never been a problem for me.
Right.
Building the house back up has never been a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's just keeping it from collapsing. And I feel like with this closer examination of the 7 areas of self
Mm-hmm.
is how I can change the paradigm moving forward.
You've been in a lot of treatment in your life.
Yeah.
Have you ever sat in treatment centers where they talk about getting in touch with your inner child?
I don't think so.
You don't know about that?
No. Through breath work, I've felt it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about breath work a little, because I know I went to one of your breath work groups.
Yeah.
That you had in Newport Beach.
Oh yeah, the vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Breath work is something else.
Yeah.
Like you go into it's transforming. You go like into an entrancing part. Like a lot of emotions come out.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of the bullshit goes away. You basically hyperoxygenate your bloodstream, and in that state, it's said that your hypothalamus pituitary releases DMT, dimethyltryptamine, naturally occurring in your body, and you kind of get an experience that's free from inauthenticity or lies or bullshit or the shell that you put on or the traumas that you have. Maybe there's traumas to work through that stages that you have to go through, because I remember it was very painful for me for many months. I'd cry and have a lot of body aches and pains. Mm-hmm. And after a few months that kind of stopped, and I started having astral projection experiences where I'd walk around a room when my body was on the ground and look in drawers and do stuff and find stuff in other rooms. I would know what was in that room because I looked in that drawer, but I was on the ground the whole time. Like really, really cool stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And traumas, have you worked through your traumas, or are you currently?
I'm having some experiences where, I'm recognizing, oh wow, this is like a PTSD thing for me. This is and I'm trying to confront them, by being more vocal, because I have a problem with confrontation. I don't want to have uncomfortable conversations.
Right, I understand.
I want to people please, so I stuff shit or I just let it go by the wayside. But now when those things are coming up, or when something happens and I didn't say anything, or I didn't take action, or I didn't have the uncomfortable conversation, then I realized that, wait, it's 2 days later, I'm still thinking about it.
Right.
This is the kind of stuff. This is the one stone that's fallen that's going to cause an avalanche. Mm-hmm. I actually have to do something.
Right.
I have to. I'll call up a couple of people. Hey, this happened. What should I do about it?
You haven't called me lately.
Good direction. I'll put you on the list.
No, I mean, I got to tell you. So I've been doing this podcast, this particular one, Pej's Recovery Corner, since February. Before we did another podcast that was the Sober Grind, me and Austin. I think we had you on there one time. But today's podcast was the most comfortable for me.
Cool, man.
Because I've had various guests, different people from different walks of life in different areas of recovery or lack thereof. Right? That's what I always say. It's Pej's Recovery Corner. Come here and talk about your recovery, what your interpretation is of recovery. Some of it could be dietary, some of it could be Suboxone maintenance. I want to hear about that.
Sure.
If you think that you're sober and you say that you're sober and you believe that you're sober, to each their own. That's your recovery, right? Yeah. But I've known you a long time, and when I hear your story, I very much relate to so much of what you talk about, because not just because we grew up in the same area, right? We grew up in Orange County. We were Orange County kids for a while. Yeah. We've done the LA lifestyle. I mean, in different areas, but I think internally, it's that self-manufactured depression that we bring onto ourselves, and then we seek. Especially guys like us, we were thrill seekers, and it was through stimulants. Yeah. The stuff that'll make you fucking go fast. Yeah. The stuff that'll make you hang stuff in the garage and hang from it and wonder, why are we hanging in the garage? I remember my mom one night, she came driving into the garage. I was 30 years old, and I had all these bicycle hooks, hooking odd objects. Yeah. And it was like 1 a.m. She drove in and she looked up at me, hanging from up there, and she's like, "What are you doing?" Yeah. And she got out of the car and said, "If you put as much energy as you do into rearranging this garage and doing stuff and to going to school, you'd be like a scientist." Right. Right? Yeah. I'm just like,
I tinfoiled the whole carpet once in the loft. and until I got in the corner and I was like, oh, this probably wasn't a good idea. I can't go anywhere.
Right.
How did I think this was going to be functional?
Right.
But then if you spilled any stuff, then
there's always psychologically it made sense at the time.
So I think it's because we've suffered the same thought life.
Right.
We've had the same solution that ran out.
Right.
That protected us from that thought life, and we've both had to do certain things.
Absolutely.
To be saved from that thought life.
Right.
Because it's really not the drugs; it's our fucking thought life.
It's our thought life.
And
the ego.
Selfishly, I'm glad it felt good because selfishly, I'm here because I want to soak up some of that wonderful light that you give so many people. Bro.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For real.
Seriously, today was the most comfortable episode because I know you and like I just feel, with the other ones like I've run out of questions and here like we could talk forever. Yeah. It's old friends and like I'm happy you're alive.
Me too.
And I'm happy that you're sober again. This means a lot to me, and I hope it means a lot to you too.
Yeah, it does. I'm protecting it with everything I got. I want to keep it 100 through and through. I don't want to miss a step. I don't want to keep it secret. I want to maybe for the first time in my life experience my authentic self. Even in just
how about instead of
sometimes.
Maybe? How about definitely?
Definitely, dude.
Right.
Right. But it's kind of a quest. Like. To be your raw, unfiltered, authentic self all the time. There's always something's always gonna wedge its way in there.
Sure.
But I wanna.
As long as we can keep the substances out of our body, we have more of a chance to actually tap into deeper layers of our soul.
Yeah.
I believe that's what I believe.
Yeah.
I had and have deep layers of the ego, but this is about really, getting down to the core of things.
It's amazing too when you think about it. Like, how do they say it's the first thing the last thing you do and the first thing that works, right? And how did I get by for so long? And how do other people get by without the intensive work, without really applying it to their life? Right. Without if you want to study to pass a test, you study your balls off, right? All-nighters or whatever. Very few people actually get into the book like that. Like it's actually really going to save their life. Like we're just like bumbling around in the dark, like, like fellowship, cool, go to a meeting, cool. But like as far as digesting that book, it happens very rarely. I can't believe it took me this long. Like, what an idiot.
You mean to tell me all those other years before you didn't really get into it?
I mean, I did the surface level stuff, the homework checking boxes. I didn't really apply it to
and you know what's crazy, Jeremy? Situation. It's really not that fucking hard.
Yeah.
I say it to lots of different people. I get highly intellectual, entitled young men and women that come from some well-to-do families that they come in and they'll do everything but the fucking simplest recovery work. It's like this shit will save your life. You do that shit, it might take your life. And of course, like you tell that to like kids. If you would have told us back in the day, especially like I remember at one point I was so depressive. I had this car accident where somebody died as a result of me driving. So I just wanted to numb out. And people would say, "Pej, you're kind of out of control. Like you keep doing this, you might die." I was like, "Well, then in that case, give me more. Like I don't care.
Bring it on.
Who will come to the funeral? Will I even know? It doesn't matter. And that's no way to live. No, it ain't no way to live. No. How old are you now?
40.
You're 40 years old.
Yeah.
My, how time has flown.
You look the same, dude. Trips me out.
A little bit whiter, and the back hurts a little bit fatter. I'm counting my steps these days. Nice. Back in the day, I fucking counted them a different way.
Put one on the dog and see who wins.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I want to thank you. I'll have you in future episodes. You're one of my dearest friends. I love you very much. And
keep me accountable. We'll check up.
I will keep you accountable. All right. You know thanks for everyone that tuned in today. Pej's Recovery Corner. We had Jeremy Jackson, and we'll see you next week with another special guest.
I forgive you, Johnny.